I have a question for you. Have you ever opened Instagram or social media for that fact and just went to look at one thing but ended up scrolling for hours and watching a girl's vacation in Bali or a golden retriever that dances or someone's skincare routine and just looked at the clock and went, what just happened? Because sometimes I close Instagram feeling motivated, sometimes I'm energized, sometimes I'm upset, and it's funny how it's the same app, it's the same me, but it's completely different emotions that come from it. So who's pulling the strings? Are we using social media or is social media using us? Hi, I'm Amura. Welcome to episode 1 of my podcast, Down the Rabbit Hole with Amura. And today we're uncovering the case on whether we are social media's puppets. A few years ago, I read this book called A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. If you're a teenage girl, I'm sure you have heard of this book. And as every teen did, I went down the book talk rabbit hole and got absolutely obsessed with this book. And when I tell you this came up in every single conversation that I had at that time, I am not even exaggerating. So much so to the point that I'm bringing it up today in our conversation. So the reason I wanted to talk about this book is, if you've read it, I'm sure you all know about Pip, our main character. If you haven't, I totally recommend that you go read it right now. But pretty much Pip is reopening this case that was considered closed. And that's similar to what we've done with social media. When we think about Instagram or YouTube, we say, oh yeah, it affects our mental health. Case closed. But there's so much more behind that, so much more to the reason we're addicted to social media and why it affects us. Is it bad or is it good? Why does it have so much control over us? There are so many questions that are left unanswered. So today, as any good case does, we are going to look at the evidences that this case provides us with, put our pip hats and unravel this case and talk about dopamine, FOMO, comparison trap, validation, so much that comes from this term social media, and uncover whether it's us that's using the app or the app that's using us. Let's start with evidence number 1, the crime scene. My puppy ran off, so it's just us having this conversation now. But as I was saying, let's begin with the crime scene. So in many cases, the struggle is to find the pieces that were left off, to find the trail that led to the case. Pretty much the culprit, the crime scene, whatever was left behind. Navigating all of that is such a difficult task. But here, it's made simple for us. We know exactly who the culprit is, social media. We know the crime scene, our insane screen time, and we know everything that leads to the issues that comes from it. So now, let's uncover a little bit more on these issues before we move to why we consider using social media the way we do, regardless of knowing that it's wrong. So, firstly, I just want to bring focus to our screen times. Well, I was looking through my phone the other day and I was just looking through my screen time out of pure curiosity. And I noticed how 7 hours a day is gone in school. 3 hours is gone in either classes or homework. 2 hours is gone in spending time with my family, spending time with my dog, reading a book, recreational activities as such. That leaves me with a little less than 3 out of the 12 hours in a day that we've been given. And it's insane how when I looked at my screen time, you would not believe it was either 5 hours or more, minimum being 5 hours. And so that means either I am on my phone constantly whenever I'm not doing something, or I'm on my phone when I'm doing something, which is crazy because think about it this way. You're already engaged in doing something. Your mind is already putting its energy towards speaking to somebody or taking part in an activity. But simultaneously, you're also on this app that is feeding you so much information. Think about the amount of stress, the amount of density that your brain would be in at that point. When you break it down this way, it sounds almost insane to how much we're putting into our brains constantly, how much we're working it out. Burnout is there in like every student today, and at this point it's not valid to call it academic burnout, because the reason behind it is our screens, is our usage of the screens that we have. So any teen that I've met today, I've noticed they're unable to sit still for a few hours and just sit in silence or sit in a conversation with somebody without opening their phone. So last year, whenever I'd go to hang out with some of my friends, even during our hangouts, all of our activities would be planned around social media. It would be about creating reels. It would be about looking through Instagram, doing this BuzzFeed quiz, doing this trivia. Everything was around social media. And when we had that real life connection right in front of us, why weren't we utilizing it? Why were we still seeking this piece of screen, this platform, this pretty much this digital rectangle, when we had so much right in front of our eyes? So Harvard actually did a study that I want to introduce you guys to, and pretty much in this study they declared that a teenager or a growing child's brain hasn't developed that hormone of control yet. And this is actually one of the reasons as to why us teens are so much more addicted to phones than adults. I'm not saying adults aren't today, because I've noticed so many people constantly on their phone when doing one thing or the other. But we have this we're like zombies. We see a screen, moving towards it. And so I actually want to introduce you guys to this word that I heard of recently. It's called infobesity. So pretty much this word also refers to information overload, and it states that it is a state of being overwhelmed by an excess volume of data. This digital deluge makes it difficult to process information, prioritize tasks, or make effective decisions, ultimately leading to cognitive fatigue, anxiety, and diminished productivity. So these are all things we've heard before by our parents, by our grandparents, by our teachers. Don't stay on your phone too long. It's going to ruin your brain development. It's going to ruin your creativity. This, that, and this. We all know this, but we decide to ignore it. Regardless of knowing this information, we go against it. We spend a surplus of our time on social media. But it's scientifically proven that the reason so much of us face burnouts today is because of the amount of time we spend on social media. So multitasking, I'd say, is actually a myth. When you're fragmenting your attention to something, it's pretty much like, okay, I've done this now, I've read this book, but I'm instantly hopping to this other thing. I'm not doing both things simultaneously. So it's like, imagine your brain has an on and off switch. So when I'm doing something, my brain is focused on that. But when I'm switching to my phone, when I'm doing that, my brain's focus towards this activity that I'm already taking part in is completely shutting down, and I'm moving solely to my phone. So multitasking, doing things at the same time, being able to juggle two things at once, they're a myth. Straight out lies. Because when you're doing one thing, your brain is completely focusing onto it. Even when you think it's not, scientifically it is. So when I'm studying and completely shifting my attention to my phone, whatever I'm studying is not in the back of my mind like I think it is. My attention is now instantly onto my phone. That thought hasn't even marinated in my head before it's gone into this digital compost, this digital bin that's putting so much into me. Where did that information that I just learned about go now? Well, it's obviously not going to stay when you're filling that space up with social media. So I'm going to give you guys a thought to think about. When we already know the criminal, why are we chasing it and trying to be its friend rather than calling the police on it? because metaphorically that is what we're doing with social media. Now let's move on to evidence 2, which in my opinion is one of the biggest evidences for this case, and this one is dopamine. I have a question for you guys. If scrolling doesn't always make us happy, why do we continue to constantly do so? For instance, sometimes I come home tired from school, and the first thing I want to do is look at my phone, scroll on Instagram. And when I do, I continue to do it for a long period of time, to the extent of getting sick of it. Like, at one point, I'm bored of it. I don't want to be doing it anymore. But I also don't want to stop. I'm not enjoying this, but I'm not ready to stop doing this. Why? So there's a common misconception that dopamine is a happy hormone. Well, the reality is that it isn't simply just a happy chemical. It's something that's involved in anticipating and wanting rewards. Think about a slot machine. So now, if it paid me every single time, it gets boring. Like, I'm gonna stop playing because I know this is what's gonna happen. No point in playing it. If it never pays me, I'm absolutely not gonna play it ever, because it's not going to. What's the point? But what keeps making us pulling that lever is that unpredictability that comes from it. The chance of whether this is going to happen or this is going to happen. So pretty much social media does the same thing to us. The other day, my friend came up to me and told me, you know what, Amura, I was watching this video on Instagram while I was scrolling, and in this video there was this dog that was learning this trick, and it was spinning on one foot, and it was like, I was laughing out loud. And the next video that I scroll, there's this dog that's sick and upset and whining, and that made me almost cry. Now instantly my brain was like, whoa, social media has us held captive, because there is such a great level of unpredictability that comes from it. Like, one moment I'm happy, the other moment I'm upset. It's toying with our emotions to an extent. So why are we giving it our mind's autonomy? Why are we giving it full control over us, over our thoughts, over our emotions? I mean, we're vulnerable to this app. There's this bombardment of emotions and information that comes from social media that provides us with so much suspense and mystery and adrenaline. There's such a spike in our dopamine because of this, and that leads to the 5 more minutes I'll stop, but then eventually that 5 minutes becomes 20, and then 30, and then 50, and then soon it's nighttime. This brings me to evidence number 3, the algorithm. Let me ask you something. Have you ever wondered who decided that that video was gonna be on my feed next? Have you ever noticed how one moment you're talking about something to someone, and the next it's on your For You page, even when you've never watched anything related to that before? It's crazy, isn't it? So the other day, my mom and I were talking about which haircut to give to my dog, and we were just talking about different styles. We ended up getting a teddy bear haircut, by the way, but we just spoke about it. And usually I've never really looked through this type of content on my social media, but the next moment I open the app, my For You page is filled with dog haircuts, with dogs, with human haircuts. And it was like astonishing to me, because like, how did that pick it up? So if your phone is able to pick up these keywords and project it onto your screen, I want you to think about it in this way. Imagine every time you're doing something, be it studying alone in your room, reading a book, be it cooking, there's always this dark, creepy shadow that's just lurking in the corner, always watching every move that you do, always hearing every single word. It's always there, always following you. Scary, isn't it? Social media isn't far from that. It's doing pretty much the same thing. Every scroll, every word, every like, share, comment, every single move of yours is being observed by this app. And it pretty much picks on to these things that you talk about and projects it on to your screen. And when you note that connection from your life to your screen, your emotions are instantly made vulnerable. And you want to look at it more because you connect to it. So one day I could be talking about how I missed my trip to Paris, and the next day my social media is filled with Paris. Obviously, I'm going to want to keep watching because I miss that. I miss that feeling. I want to go back to Paris. By the way, it was one of my favorite trips ever. I absolutely do miss Paris. But the point is, you are so much more susceptible to connecting with your device when it projects what you want onto it. It feels like you're being heard to an extent. It feels like someone's there listening, looking out for you. When in reality, that someone is a dark, creepy shadow that's just stalking and observing every single move of yours. But the scary part here is, even when something isn't that huge in your life, when there's a repetition of it on social media, when you're constantly looking at it, it takes a big chunk of your life and it becomes a big part, even when it's not. For example, a few years ago when I fell into the labyrinth of being book obsessed, it all started with me just reading a small little Nancy Drew book. I mean, I enjoyed it. It was nothing special. I didn't think I would be like a book fanatic after it, but I did look up the book once. I spoke about it quite a bit, and that resulted in it appearing in my feed constantly, appearing on YouTube, on Instagram, and everywhere I saw there were books. There was this book recommendation, this book thriller to try, and when this image was like portrayed in front of me so many times, it was constant. It took up so much space in my brain, and that led me to constantly be thinking of books. And soon I was only talking about books, I was only looking up books. When it came up on my feed, I was going to obviously only read about and watch videos about books. And that made books such a big thing in my life, because notice how social media just transitions something small into something huge in your life. And in this case, it was something as simple as becoming an avid reader. But in most cases, it can be something that is detrimental to you, to your life, to your development. So I got lucky with this, but you may not. Not to scare you, but that is social media. That is the impact we're giving it. It's not social media that's the problem. It's the amount of importance that we're giving it. The inability to say stop. Okay, I'm stopping here on social media. I'm not gonna look through this anymore. I'm not gonna fall into this turmoil. I'm ending it here. We don't give it that stagnancy, and that is when it becomes a problem. That brings me to evidence number 4, one of the most consuming ones, the comparison trap. If I'm being absolutely honest with you, before I downloaded Instagram or YouTube or got sucked into the world of social media, the ins, the outs, the oh that's cringe, that's cool, all of those factors did not take so much of my brain space. They did not take so much of my thought and energy, and looking back at it now, I just felt so much more at ease. I mean, I felt light. Compared to after I got the app, looking at what other people considered cool, what other people considered cringe, evaluating every possible outcome of my actions. If I do this, will I be considered cringe? If I do this, would that be cool to say? I mean, doing that just made me quite stoic as a person. And if I'm being honest, completely stripped away my originality, my personality. And it took me a while to get to the point of, I don't care if that's not cool, I'm going to do what I want to do. And doing that just brings so much light into you because, I mean, it makes you you. So Why are we giving this app and people that we've never even met the power to transform us, to take away from us what makes us us? A lot of us is there. But yeah, why are we giving these people that we've never met, we probably don't even know their name, why are we giving them so much autonomy to take over our lives, to take over our decisions? So the worst part is, most of this is an act of deception. I mean, I could be watching this video of a girl that has a beautifully arranged room, completely organized, color coordinated bookshelf, and be like, I wish that was me. I wish I was that organized. But in reality, it's their job. They're being paid to appear this elegant, this aesthetic. And you're comparing your normal Tuesday to a carefully curated day in the life routine of somebody else's. So why are we completely falling into this trap of deception that social media is beautifully portrayed in front of us? Why are we letting ourselves fall into that hole? And why are we giving people that we have zero clue about so much control over our actions and our lives? This brings me to a word I'm sure a lot of you know about: FOMO. If you don't, it pretty much stands for the fear of missing out. And don't lie, I know each and every one of us have felt this before. And what's wrong isn't the ability to feel left out or feel like you're missing out on something, but it's the way Instagram is able to completely shift our moods within seconds, within a matter of minutes and seconds. I mean, 1 second I could be completely happy with my family out at a dinner, and the other I open Instagram, open a friend's story to see that some of my friends have gone out together that same day. Instantly there's a mood dip. Instantly there's a drainage of energy from me. Why are we giving this app, this platform, so much power to be able to do that from us? I mean, it's crazy if you think about it, isn't it? But here's the catch. Social media doesn't create events, it creates visibility. The events have always been there. It's just social media that's acting as a window to showcase all of that towards us. So if you didn't have that platform, your life would have been completely normal, and the people that went out without you would have continued to do the same. But because of social media, because of our constant exposure to this platform, we take everything that's happening into our brains. We let that control us so much. So what if they go out without you? They would have done it regardless of whether you had the app or not. But it's that constant exposure that that app provides you with, that constant visibility, that transparency that comes from it, that affects you. So I want to introduce you guys to this other word that I've heard of recently. This one is, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing this correctly, but it's kiasu. This is a Singlish and Hokkien term that directly translates to the fear of losing out. So this is rooted in the Hokkien words kia, which means afraid, and su, which means to lose. So this describes an obsessive, anxiety-driven desire to get ahead of others and ensure that you are never at a disadvantage. So now, the funny part is, psychologists have actually noted that this term, kiasu, has evolved to become a survival instinct. So it's not wrong until it's a feeling, but it gets wrong when it becomes a mindset. I mean, you could feel left out when you look at your friend's story, but your friend could be feeling the same when they look at your story, having fun with your family at a restaurant. They could feel left out when they look at that. So that brings me to the conclusion of saying that FOMO isn't wrong at all, but it's our decision to transition that feeling into a mindset that is wrong. With that being said, let's move on to evidence number 5. Our second last one, validation. I want to ask you guys something. Why does one extra like or share or comment on one of our posts feels so satisfying. I mean, our life was the same before it and it's going to be the same after it. Nothing changes. So why is it so satisfying? Okay, this is something that I'm sure a lot of you are guilty of. I am too. But whenever you post a story, have you ever noticed how for the next 24 hours that the story is going to be on your Instagram? Whenever you look at your phone, you instantly feel that urge to pick it up, check how many people saw your story, how many people liked it. I mean, it could be 20 seconds away from just having done that and still continue to pick it up again, look at the likes, look at the views. And it's kind of like an obsession. So why do we do that? Now, here's the thing about humans. It's human nature to want to feel noticed and appreciated. And social media knows that and does exactly that to us. Here's what I want to bring to you. Social media just turned validation into a number. I'm going to give you guys an example now, and when you think about it this way, it's going to sound absolutely ridiculous. Now imagine you're all given scoreboards on the top of your head, and every time you're in school, your actions either add to your scoreboard or decrease from your scoreboard. So this conversation, 20 extra points out of 100. This opinion, minus 12 out of 100. Your outfit for the day, 30 extra points out of 100. And you're all like machines that are given points and have a point system. It sounds ridiculous, right? Social media does the exact same thing. Every single action of yours is given a number. Validation is given a number. But validation is a signal. And when it goes wrong is when we confuse that signal with a value. We're not robots. We're not meant to be calculated, measured, and numbered. It's a human characteristic to want validation, to provide validation. But giving it a number, that is the line that when it is crossed, these signals are confused with people and their values. Eventually, some people stop asking, what do I want to post? Instead, it transforms into what will perform well. So you're no longer creating for yourself, rather you're creating for an audience. And this is how validation and social media acting as a catalyst for it has completely changed your decisions as a human being and has completely changed your opinions. Your thought process is being altered by this. So that brings me to our very last evidence. Is it all bad? We've heard the prosecution. Dopamine, the algorithm, seeking comparison, FOMO, validation. The case against Instagram seems pretty convincing at this point. However, as Pip has taught me, any good detective always looks at the opposing side before coming to a conclusion. So let's do the same. Let's look at the positives that Instagram has provided to us. Imagine the number of communities that you've formed through it, the number of friends you've kept in connection with, the number of hobbies and skills you've learned from it, the amount of exposure that you've been given to real world issues and crises because of Instagram and YouTube. I mean, there's a lot of great that comes from it. So maybe social media itself isn't inherently good or bad. Maybe it's more of a mirror. It either reflects exactly who we are or it amplifies it. If you're constantly seeking validation, it gives you an endless amount of opportunities to look for it. If you're curious, it feeds your curiosity. If you're comparing yourself, it hands you with a several number of comparisons. When I first started researching for this episode, I went into it with the mindset that I was going to declare that Instagram is guilty. Instagram is the issue here and we must diminish it. However, I do not think it's that simple. I don't think Instagram is bad per se, and I don't think humans are puppets either. Rather, we are people whose emotions are constantly nudged by a system that's gotten very, very good at keeping our attention. So, as Pip has taught me, it's that the truth is never in black or in white. And maybe the first step to cutting those strings is to noticing that they're there. So I don't think we're puppets because puppets don't have a choice. However, we, on the other hand, absolutely do. I'm going to let you sit with that thought and let you ponder upon it and maybe share your opinions with others or me and just dwell on this topic a little bit more independently. Thank you so much for listening to me. I hope this episode was a little bit of an eye-opener to the control that social media has over us. And maybe by noticing the issues, by noticing the motives and the reasons to why these issues arise in the first place, we can work towards diminishing them, towards solving them and making social media so much more powerless when it comes to the control it has over us. Thank you guys, and bye. See you next time on Down the Rabbit Hole with Amura.